I've got my own lineup of custom cast nets because live bait matters. Now, for a lot of people that have been watching my channel probably throughout the last 6 months, you'll notice the patio workshop series. Did a bunch of videos about creating my workshop out of my patio and building out my tackle room. Also videos a lot more kind of bait based, but all of that was just kind of preliminaries for the buildup of this release. So actually what I want to do is just kind of take a look at my new warehouse section for the Live Bait Matters products, and then that'll kind of wrap things up on that whole series. So let's go check it out. Here we've got my tackle room. Used to be the Keys Kayak Fishing Tackle Room, but now it is my Live Bait Matters custom cast net room. I've been working on this for a while. Get some lights on in here. So primarily this used to be my tackle room, so I've still got my actually photography area for doing product photos, but I also built all my tackle and do a lot of assembly stuff, and then real rebuilding and that kind of things on here. But the patio workshop was to be able to clear this room out so that I could get this set up for my new lineup of cast nets. And got that initial rack in, got this rack in, got some overhead storage there. But that was what that whole series was about, basically getting this room ready for this lineup of cast nets. Now this is just one of 4 sections of it, my initial release. I'll go over that in a few minutes here. But yeah, this is going to be the Live Bait Matters cast net room. Alrighty, so I started a new company. It's going to be Live Bait Matters. It's going to be a subsidiary of my parent company, which is All About the Bait. It'll be under livebaitmatters.com. I will be selling primarily a full line of custom cast nets, made specifically for the Keys, but you can utilize them anywhere for catching live bait. I will also be selling Live Bait Matters / cast net accessories, such as stickers, key tags, got little bait dip nets, big dip nets, hats, shirts, basically any accessories revolving around the live bait genre. You'll be able to check those out at livebaitmatters.com. Now, in regards to All About the Bait with now the Live Bait Matters, one of the things that I focus on while I'm building my company and in regards to product selection is kind of keeping one thing in mind, is that there's really only one common thing between the angler, us, and the fish, okay? And that is the bait. Now, fish don't care what clothes you're wearing, what boat you're on, what rod and reel you're using, or even the fishing line that's going down to where they're at. They care about none of that. I talk to them. They don't care. The only thing that we have in common that they care about is the bait, okay? And if you don't focus on that part of it, you might as well just consider yourself fishing, because you're really not giving yourself a chance to catch anything if you don't get that part right. Hence, All About the Bait. Now, for my company, I have basically 3 pillars. Number 1 is sun protection. Okay, in the Keys, we get lots of sun year-round, and you can get irradiated real quick if you're not used to it. So that part's really important, because if you're cooked into bacon, you're not going to come back to go fishing, and you're not going to have a good experience, and hence, you're not going to be buying more stuff. So, got to keep that in mind. Keep yourself healthy. So, I've got that part of it. The second part is the stuff that I use. Okay, I fish a lot, specifically in the Keys. I test a lot of things. I kind of go back to the old ways on what's always worked, not what you're going to find at the new ICAST show that they've designed but really have no history about it. I go back 40, 50 years, find out the stuff that the locals have been using for 40 or 50 years and are still catching fish. but you can't find anymore because iCast stuff is the stuff that sells, and that old stuff is old and boring, but it works. Okay, so that's the stuff I focus on when coming up with new products. Then the third thing is Florida Keys specific. Okay, we have a specific fishery down here, specific techniques, and one of those key components is that the Florida Keys are a live bait fishery, a live bait / natural bait fishery. All right, sure, you can fish a bunch of different ways using artificials, but I would say probably 75–80+% of the fish are caught using live and natural baits. It's a very selective, very technical fishery, and it's hard, to be honest with you. And having that edge of all about the bait and knowing that really helps catching versus just fishing. So that aspect of the Florida Keys specific tackle is also why my assortment here. And that brings us to the Live Bait Matters cast nets, because pilchards and all the other accessory style baits are the key component for our fishery. And in order to get to that point, you need to be able to catch that bait in order to catch that fish. So hence, Live Bait Matters cast nets. Now, when we're talking about those three pillars, the things that I use now with cast nets, on every single trip, I take 3 different cast nets with me every single time. So if you see me with my laundry basket that goes in the back of my kayak, at the bottom base of that laundry basket are 3 different cast nets, and then I also utilize them to keep my other gear off the water level there. But every trip, 3 different cast nets. Now, in regards to the third pillar, Florida Key specific tackle / fishing merchandise, there's really 2 ways to tell if somebody actually has Florida Keys fishing experience. The number 1 way is look at their hands. Look at the tips and edges of their ears, their nose, and how leathery their skin is on their face. Okay, that's a key indicator if they've got Florida Keys fishing experience on the water. Now, that can be a little bit questionable because you've got the sailboat people out there, you've got roofing people, so that can kind of throw things off a bit. But there's one key way you can also tell. Hand them a cast net and say, throw me a pancake. If they can grab that net and throw a pancake, that means opening it up without a problem. The most likely that they know the Florida Keys fishery, because it doesn't matter if they are a hardcore, no bait, no spinning rods allowed on my flats boat, I'm a fly fishing only guy, okay? They've still gone through the process of learning the Florida Keys, and that means learning how to throw a cast net, because live bait in the Florida Keys is kind of a big portion of the fishery. Now, in the future, I'm going to be doing a whole series about the cast nets in specific. This is just more of a quick company release video. I'll be doing quite a few informative style videos about cast nets, what they make up, how to use them, how to throw them, how to store them, how to find bait, so forth and so on. So those will be upcoming videos, as well as I need some product videos for the website, so those will also be coming up soon. Not much difference than I've been probably the last almost 2 months been doing a full series on the new solo skiff that I've been utilizing for my go-to vessel. That was actually not supposed to have happened, and I was supposed to release these cast net videos a month or 2 earlier, but then I ended up doing that, so it got pushed back. But here we are now, so in the future, expect a lot more cast net style videos. Now, in regards to the actual Live Bait Matters cast nets, as I mentioned while I was doing the little tackle room tour there, I'm going to be releasing them in 4 stages. This first stage is, I would say, they're not necessary, but they're kind of the key nets for the Florida Keys and my specific customer clientele base. Okay, they fished the right mesh sizes, which is to targeting pilchards, preventing getting gill netted / Christmas treed by a bunch of small baits like glass minnows, or 2 to catch glass minnows to utilize for chum and that kind of sort. But also 3 is, they're not the big nets. My second release is actually going to be the big nets, but you won't see any of the 12-foot nets in this first release. My core customer base tends to be the newer visitor to the Florida Keys, as well as the more experienced but tend to be older clientele base. All right, so they tend to not be wanting to throw a super heavy 12-foot net, or they can or used to throw the 12-foot net but want to be use something that's more manageable. So hence 5-foot to 10-foot mesh is what you're going to see me selling as those core ones, as well as the 3/16 inch mesh, which is the smallest that you could pretty much find, to a 1/4 inch, which is probably the most all-around utilized by the knowledgeable bait catching people. And then third, I've got a few select 3/8, which is kind of the industry standard throughout the world, but not specifically the most useful in the Keys, although they do have their place, which will be my third stage that will be coming. So I do have all the stages. First stage is, you'll take a look, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 foot in 3/16, 1/4, and I have 3/8 in a 5 foot and a 7 foot with light weights, which I call my learning cast nets, for those people that want to learn how to throw a cast net without having to haul the heavy nets, because that's the most frustrating part in the beginning, is learning that muscle memory and getting tired right away, and then it all goes downhill and it's just a mess. But first stage is those core ones. Second stage is going to be strictly 12-foot nets. I'm going to have them in, again, all 3 mesh sizes, 3/16, 1/4, and 3/8. But I also am going to have a standard heavy version, which is 1.5 pounds per square foot, which is kind of a heavy standard. But I will also be making a light version for the people that want to throw the big net, but maybe can't or don't want to throw or don't find it's necessary to have a heavy net. And that is going to be a 1 pound per square foot versus the 1.5 pounds. Also, they're going to have a smaller diameter rope. Once you start getting into the 12-foot, especially with the 3/16, lots of monofilament that you have to put in your palm, it gets hard to grab all the mesh, all the rope, and be able to hold on to it. So with those lighter versions, I use a smaller diameter rope, so it's not taking up so much room in your hand, so it's a little bit more comfortable to throw. So that's kind of the second version that'll be coming, and those should be here in July, so not too far away. The third version is actually going to be the 3/8. As I mentioned, that's kind of the industry standard. It's by far the cheapest. You'll see the general price for a 3/8 nets versus a 3/16 mesh net, which is a lot smaller, is probably a third of the cost of the 3/16, partially because it uses less material, but also because 3/8 is the standard that you could pretty much find. Every net is 3/8 to start with that you could find out on the web there. The cheapy stuff is all 3/8. And this specialty stuff, 3/16, even a 1/4, is much harder to find because it's more for a specific clientele, like in the Keys. But for that third versions, I'm going to fill up the sizes, all 5, 6, 7, 8, 10s, and I'll already have the 12s with the 12, the second release, will be in a 3/8 version, because it's still useful for the people that are looking for that just deal with the bigger pilchards, mullet, pinfish, grunts, and as well as ballyhoo. In the Keys, because we have that cross selection of bait, you don't have a lot of, like on the mainland, strictly mullet people. There's a few, and they can get their mullet nets somewhere else, but most of the time people want a net that can catch mullet, ballyhoo, pilchards, so they might go for the 3/8. and then you have a lot that want to make sure that they don't gill net a bunch of baits, so they want the 1/4 and the 3/8, and you want those that specifically want to catch glass minnows and mahua for chumming and using smaller baits that want just the 3/16 inch mesh nets. But you always got to remember, smaller can catch bigger, but bigger can't catch smaller. So that's why 3/16 and 1/4 can still be used to catch mullet, still can be taken offshore and catch ballyhoo, just not as efficiently as a bigger mesh that'll sink faster. So those are the 3 core ones that are going to happen. And the 4th core is, I think I will at the end, no rush, but sell the super cheap Chinese mass-produced super basic ones that you get 20 bucks off of eBay and Amazon. Okay, and the reason for that is that's what I used for the last 10 years on a couple of my nets, and they're still surviving and they catch bait. It's just that they're very low quality, but they last because they are low quality, super thick mesh mono on them, and they use those plastic with concrete weights, and they're bulky, but it's just a cast net. It's not super high tech. So I'll probably keep those just to get that price point for those people that want to learn but just can't see spending $100, $150 for a very good specific cast net when they just want to see if they can use it, maybe just want to try to learn how to use it, catch a couple baits and be super pumped that they did it, that kind of thing, and spend 20, 30 bucks for it. Or just for someone coming for a quick visit. So that'll end up being the 4th release down the road there. Not super important. But that's kind of what will be upcoming. I've got the first release now. They're up on sale. The 12-foot more guide series will be coming sometime middle end of July. And then the 3rd release, which will be the 3/8 versions, probably September-ish, getting ready for our peak season coming up for the 4th quarter. All right, there you go. LiveBaitMatters.com, AllAboutTheBait.com, custom cast nets. Boom, I got them. It took a bit, but I was a little bit hesitant on it. It does fit the pillars very nicely. Stuff that I use, stuff for the Florida Keys. Because there are my custom ones, I was able to pick every single piece exactly how I wanted them because of that Florida Keys specific part of it. It took a while though because it is a very expensive lineup, probably my most expensive lineup. When I'm done, I'm probably going to be in it close to 6 figures. It also takes up a lot of space, hence the goodbye tackle room, hello Live Bait Matters cast net room, and shipping lead and offering free shipping. Not the best business idea. So that was probably the biggest reason I postponed it. Same thing as my vertical jig lineup. I have probably the biggest selection of vertical jigs and vertical jig accessories in the Florida Keys. But sending chunks of lead with free shipping is rough. But, you know, I had to do it. It's just such a fit. All About the Bait, Live Bait Matters, cast nets. It's just bread and butter. So kind of had to do it. But they're there. Very happy about it. Expect a lot of videos coming up where I'll get into more details on the what, why, when, where, how. But otherwise, thanks for watching, and I will see you next video. Bye. That's what we're looking for.